I don't know about you guys, but I love when I see players from Big 5 schools get some recognition. Oftentimes, it seems like all the players that are getting talked about are from these Power 5 programs. But every once in a while, you have an exception, and there's an athlete like Ashton Jeanty who just absolutely blows everyone out of the water. If you're a fan of college football, you've probably already heard of him, and that he's a record-breaking running back for Boise State. Jeanty rushed for 267 yards, breaking a 46-year-old single-game record for Boise State. And I can't forget to mention the 6 touchdowns he scored in the process. He would end up tying the Mountain West record for the most touchdowns scored in a game, and this would have him be the leading rusher going into week 1. But he doesn't have your typical story, and how he got here is actually pretty interesting. Ashton was originally born in Jacksonville, Florida on December 2nd, 2003, and he grew up in a household with discipline, structure, and general respect for the family. A big part of this was because his father served in the military, which meant that his family was moving quite often. And I think his father definitely influenced Ashton's mindset, which helped him develop into the player he is today. Ashton would end up playing on your regular local youth leagues, and he definitely showed glimpses of talent and caught some attention from some high schools. But before he got a chance to showcase his abilities at the high school level, in the United States at least, his family relocated overseas where his father was stationed for military service. His family would move to Italy, and this is where he started to develop as a young football player. This was a huge shift for him, not only because he was leaving his friends behind, but because football wasn't really prevalent in Italy, at least not like it is in the US. This was a territory where soccer and basketball was definitely more popular. Ashton quoted, "Moving to Italy was tough at first. There wasn't a lot of football, and it was hard to keep playing at a competitive level." And though football wasn't a big priority during time overseas, Ashton didn't let that stop him from honing in his skills. He ended up joining a local high school team where he could practice. And during this time, he also focused on physical fitness, staying in shape through other sports like basketball and track. He stated, "It wasn't the same level of competition, but I knew that every bit of experience would help me once I got back." And it's safe to say that this experience definitely served him well. While Ashton missed out on some football culture in Italy, he stated that if he could do it all over again, he would do the same exact thing. Living in a foreign country forced Ashton to adapt. He quoted, "Living overseas made me see things differently. I learned to appreciate other cultures and ways of life, and it definitely made me stronger. It wasn't easy being away from competition that I knew I would have back in the US, but it gave me time to focus on myself and grow." So eventually, Ashton's family returned to the US after staying in Italy for 3 years, and they would settle in Frisco, Texas. And this is where he knew it was time to prove how good he actually was at football. Because if you don't know, Texas is where football players are made. He enrolled at Lone Star High School, and he was eager to take advantage of the opportunity to play in one of the most competitive football states in the country. And the high school coaches stated that they didn't really know where to put him. They tried him out at outside linebacker, even on the defensive line, because they had talented running backs on their team. But it didn't take long for them to realize that running back was probably the best position for him. But it's safe to say that whether he was running the ball or catching passes or lining up on defense, Ashton's athleticism was impossible to ignore. After settling in the running back position, he recorded 1,843 rushing yards and 229 carries. He was also notably a receiving back with 810 receiving yards on just 41 receptions, and would have 41 touchdowns in his senior season alone. His coaches quoted that he's gonna do whatever it takes to reach the top. His coach proudly stated this after one of his standout games. So it's safe to say that the drive that began in Italy had grown stronger upon his return, and now Ashton was ready to make his mark on a bigger stage. According to 24/7 Sports, he was a 4-star recruit at this point. As one of the nation's top-ranked running backs, he didn't want your traditional path of joining a Power 5 school, but he wanted to join a school that wanted him and that he knew he could excel in immediately. And when he visited Boise State, it just felt right. Ashton says, "The coaches, the program, the fit, it just all made sense for me." And also, Boise State has a history of developing running backs. So this is when he finally decided to commit to the Broncos. In his true freshman season at Boise State in 2022, Ashton split playing time with another running back. Despite this, he still played in all 14 games and actually started in 2 of them. In his freshman year alone, he rushed for 821 yards on 156 carries, while scoring 7 touchdowns. He continued to contribute in the passing game as well, with 157 receiving yards on just 14 catches. Looking back on his freshman season, Ashton says, "It was a great learning experience. I knew I had a lot to learn, and I just tried to make the most of every opportunity." Now his sophomore season is where it starts to get a little more exciting and where Ashton Jeanty would have a breakout season. He would end up taking a larger role on the team at this point, and he would rush for 1,347 yards and 14 touchdowns. And he also recorded 569 receiving yards, the most of any running back in the nation. This performance would name him Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year, and he also earned first-team All-American honors from ESPN, College Football Network, and USA Today. But his most impressive performance that year was against Air Force. He became the first Bronco since 2016 to record over 100 rushing yards and 100 receiving yards in the same game. And if last season wasn't impressive enough, his record-breaking performance from the season opener says it all. Ashton kicked off the 2024 season against Georgia Southern, and he would end up rushing for an astounding 267 yards, breaking a 46-year-old single-game rushing record for the Broncos. He also tied the Mountain West record with 6 total touchdowns in the game. Ashton's ability to adapt in tough situations has been proven throughout his career, and I can't help but root for him. From a kid who moved from the US to Italy, back to the US, to play for one of the most competitive environments in football, says a lot about some of the obstacles that he had to overcome. I'm really excited to see how his career unfolds and how he continues to dominate in the college level. Let me know your thoughts on Ashton Jeanty's story, if there's anything that I missed, and if there are any players that you want me to cover in the future. These are the stories that I love doing research on and players I love learning about. If you made it this far into the video, be sure to subscribe. All the support means the world, and I will see you in my next story or video. Peace out.